Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. We're all one step closer to World War III. This is the top story in the world. We have to talk about it and how it relates to Russia and Ukraine. Israel says 300 Iranian drones and missiles downed in an unprecedented attack. So let me give you my basic position on Israel and Iran. And Israel just wants to exist, while most of their neighbors want to destroy them. Chief among Israel's rivals is Iran. And if Iran would just stop trying to destroy Israel, there wouldn't be a conflict. There wouldn't be a war. There is fair criticism how Israel chooses to deal with their neighbors. But I don't live in Israel. It's not my people. It's not my security. I'm not the one that people around me have been trying to kill for decades. And this is what Iran has been doing for over 50 years, trying to destroy Israel, feeding weapons and training and intelligence to terrorist groups around the Middle East. They have proxies in Iraq, Syria, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and the Houthis in Yemen. And this is all incredibly cynical because the Iranians don't actually care about any of these people. The Iranians are Shia and Persian, and they're using Arabs and Sunnis to do their dirty work, to conduct these attacks against Israel. So why did Iran launch this massive drone and missile attack? And this is in response to what Israel did 2 weeks ago. Iran says Israel bombed its embassy in Syria, killing military commanders. And yes, I am going to condemn Israel for doing this. Israel should not be bombing foreign embassies in other countries. This is objectively insane. Israel, if you want to take out top Iranian commanders, people who are feeding intelligence, training, weapons, and money to terrorist groups, I'm sorry, you got to do it when the guy is getting into his car or getting out of his car. You can't just blow up foreign embassies in other countries because you want to kill people. That's insane. But Iran's response, I think, is counterproductive. They knew it was going to fail. They gave 2 weeks' notice, basically to everyone, that they were going to do this. So here's the results of their massive attack last night. All 185 kamikaze drones were shot down. 103 out of 110 ballistic missiles were shot down. 36 out of 36 cruise missiles shot down. Iran knew this. They knew this was going to fail horribly. The United States air defense systems in Syria and Iraq, in Jordan, in the Mediterranean, as well as Israeli air defense systems, easily were able to handle these 300 incoming drones and missiles. So why did Iran do this? And I think Iran, one, wanted to demonstrate to their people that they can respond, but I think this was a practice run. I think Iran wanted an excuse to conduct some kind of massive operation. 185 kamikaze drones. These are not being flown by AI algorithms. There's a human in a seat somewhere piloting each one of these drones. So this command center to launch 185 kamikaze drones has to be huge. And I think Iran just wanted the experience. They wanted the practice so that at a later date, perhaps they can be more successful. If China attacks Taiwan and the United States is distracted, if Russia invades the Baltics and the United States is distracted, then perhaps Iran can successfully destroy Israel with a massive missile and drone strike. This is a serious possibility over the next 2 or 3 years. You watch my videos, you know how crazy the world is getting. So concerning Israel, I'm going to be a little harsh here. I think Benjamin Netanyahu has to go. This guy has been in charge of Israel for too long. He's been the Prime Minister of Israel for over 16 years. And when you've been in office longer than a decade, you start to look like a dictator. 16 years is Lukashenko numbers, Putin numbers. And I think Benjamin Netanyahu has been deliberately dragging out this operation in the Gaza Strip to hold on to power. He was prime minister when the October 7th attacks occurred. Is he not responsible? I also think Netanyahu is corrupt. He's been investigated, charged with fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes in 3 separate scandals involving powerful media moguls. He's been trying to pass legislation and crack down on the courts to protect himself, more or less stay in office forever. And I do think Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to instigate a war with Iran while the United States is still available to fight it for Israel. The United States moved their aircraft carrier group, the Dwight D. Eisenhower, towards Israel. There's already one supercarrier group off the coast. A second one is now joining it. Israel basically, I think, wants to start this war while the United States is not distracted in the Pacific against China or in the Baltic Sea against the Russians. These are pretty serious times. So let's talk about how this relates to Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine, of course, condemns the Iranian attack on Israel. But here's the Kremlin. Kremlin calls on Iran and Israel to exercise restraint. This is pretty rich for a country that's bombing civilians in European cities every single night, calling on the Iranians to exercise restraint. And I think what Russia is genuinely concerned about is what if Iran is destroyed? Russia is dependent on Iran right now for artillery and drones and missiles, and if Iran has to fight their own war, well, they're not exactly free to give up their military inventory to help Russia fight their war. Here's an interesting tweet from Adam Kinzinger. A proportional response for Israel would be to destroy these Iranian drone factories. Doesn't matter if the United States or Israel does it, we know where these Iranian drone factories are. And if Iran wants to use these drones to attack Israel, then I think it's appropriate to destroy these factories. Now that means that these factories can't produce drones and parts for the Russians in their war against Ukraine. So we don't know what the response will be, but I guarantee you Israel is going to do something. Expect incoming in the next 48 to 72 hours. And just monitoring this incident on social media is mind-boggling. Here's a tweet from Ryan Saavedra. He's a senior reporter with the Daily Wire. And he states, "It's sad Israel has to live under constant threat of missile and rocket attacks like this. No other modern country has to live with this constant threat." There are people that live in this alternate reality where Ukraine doesn't exist. Russia is not attacking it nightly. Here's another tweet that didn't age well. This is from Sultan Ahmed. He calls himself an investigative journalist, but he says, "Iran will not strike Israel in the next 24 to 48 hours. He tweeted this 2 days ago. "I doubt Iran will strike Israel. The claims of NATO and Mossad and the mainstream media are lying to you." And honestly, after the Crocus City attack, with US intelligence warning the Russians, anytime the State Department puts out a warning, I think the intelligence is accurate. US intelligence the last 2 years has been pretty spot on most things that it's warned the world about. US intelligence said this was coming, and there are idiots with 500,000 followers on Twitter proudly saying that if the United States says it, the opposite must be true. So what does Speaker Johnson have to say? As Israel faces this vicious attack from Iran, America must show our resolve to stand with our critical ally. The world must be assured Israel is not alone. I will continue to engage with the White House to insist upon a proper response. The Biden administration's undermining of Israel and appeasement of Iran have contributed to these terrible developments. You guys know I hate this guy. Here's my response. The US Senate passed military aid for Israel over 2 months ago, and you have been blocking an up or down votes on military aid to Israel. Why is Speaker Johnson blocking this vote? Because it also includes military aid for Ukraine. Speaker Johnson, as an evangelical, is torn. Do I support Israel by allowing a vote on this bill? But if I do that, that'll hurt the Russians. I'm trying to help Russia win their war in Ukraine. So Speaker Johnson has a choice: support Russia or support Israel. And if he continues blocking votes on this military aid package that the Senate has passed, he's declaring publicly he supports Russia more than Israel. He wants Russia to win their war more than he wants to help defend Israel. So the only way forward is to sign Discharge Petition number 9. This is the only way to get around Speaker Johnson to allow an up or down vote on the Senate's version of military aid for Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, and humanitarian relief to the people of Gaza. When we scroll to the bottom, we can see that there's 195 signatures. We need 218. So we only need 23 more signatures, and we can finally get a vote and pass military aid for Ukraine. On Twitter, if you also use Twitter, please follow me, but I made a massive post showing all of the Twitter accounts for members of Congress. If you want to politely and respectfully leave them comments and messages asking them to vote for the discharge petition to help Israel, to help Taiwan, to help Ukraine, humanitarian relief to the people of Gaza. This list includes about 20 House Democrats who haven't signed and about 30 House Republicans that support Ukraine but are too scared to sign the discharge petition. So I'll link this down below if you want to look at the telephone numbers or go to their Twitter pages. And this is how messed up the United States is right now under Speaker Mike Johnson. This is real. This was the agenda set for this week in the House of Representatives. Absolutely no debate or vote was going to be allowed by Speaker Johnson on military aid for Ukraine, and instead MAGA Republicans were going to spend the entire week talking about these bills. The Hands Off Our Home Appliances Act, the Liberty in Laundry Act, the Clothes Dryer Responsibility Act, the Refrigerator Freedom Act, the Affordable Air Conditioning Act, and the Stop Unaffordable Dishwasher Standards Act. Given that all of this nonsense relates to home appliances, I feel like this could have been one single bill, but given that this session of Congress has the reputation for being the most unproductive and dysfunctional session of Congress in history, they broke all this nonsense up to make it look like they're doing more. Now, because Iran has attacked Israel, they're going to not talk about refrigerator freedom this week or laundry liberty, and instead they're going to talk about how they can help Israel. But if House Republicans were serious about actually helping Israel, then they would pass the Senate's version of military aid. But they're not going to do that because MAGA extremists who support Russia are still threatening to remove Speaker Johnson from the chair if he allows a vote on military aid for Ukraine. So I know you guys missed her. You missed her voice, you missed her face, but I have to play another clip from Marjorie Trader Green.
But this whole thing is the most repulsive, disgusting thing happening, and the American people are the ones writing the check. And I absolutely hate everybody here that is doing this. I mean, I seriously hate them for doing this to the American people and paying for the murder and slaughter of people in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has not said he wants to go march across Europe and take Europe. And the reality is Ukraine is not even a NATO member nation. But if you want to know something, Lloyd Austin and the others here, more than anything, want to send your uncles, your cousins, and your sons and daughters to the front lines in Ukraine, because that is the only country that for some weird, sick, and evil reason that they care about.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin has never said he wants to conquer all of Europe. Vladimir Putin is such a trustworthy guy. Russia State TV wants Moscow to conquer 3 U.S. states. Here's the clip on Russian State TV. And I have to remind everyone, nothing is allowed to be said on Kremlin State TV without the approval of the Kremlin. If you say something the Kremlin doesn't approve of, you're arrested and put in jail. So this is what this commentator has to say. We have fundamental marks concerning the demilitarized status of Ukraine, concerning the territories of the East. I want the Russian Empire, with Alaska, Hawaii, and California, Finland and Poland. Although Finland and Poland are so stinky, I'm not so sure. To be honest, Soloviev then says we'll clean them. Yes, but again, wishful thinking is one thing and actual politics is another. So here are the Russians on Russian State TV saying they're going to take Hawaii, Alaska, and California. Marjorie's probably okay with that. Here's the map. This is the map that Putin looks at. And absolutely, he wants half of Europe. He wants to retake all territory that belonged to the Soviet Union, Ukraine, Moldova, the Baltics. He then wants to undermine the democracies that used to belong to the Warsaw Pact and put in pro-Russian dictators. More or less, the Russians already control the governments of Serbia, Hungary, Slovakia, maybe even Austria. So it's not looking good for Europe if the United States can't wake up. Trump says make Ukraine aid in the form of a loan. Former U.S. President Donald Trump said he is not opposed to Republicans approving a military aid package, but that it should exist in the form of a loan. Nobody in Ukraine cares if it's a loan or direct aid. You just have to pass something. Pass something tomorrow. But what Trump and Speaker Johnson are doing is they're just delaying. They're just wasting time. If the House passes a different version, it's got to go back to the Senate and get 60 votes. If the Senate changes anything, it's got to go back to the House once again to be voted on. If the discharge petition doesn't go through, it's going to waste months. And that's the entire game from Johnson and Trump. Just continue wasting time until the November election. Putin ally declares, Mike Johnson is our Johnson. Here's another clip from Russia Media Monitor. Olga says, Mike Johnson is Russia's guy. Got another clip for you here. Today will be the most important day because today Johnson is going to go visit Trump. I'm just letting you know there will be an event at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. There they will discuss the external funding of Israel, Taiwan, and all the rest. He means Ukraine. The Speaker of Congress, Mike Johnson, that would be our Mike Johnson. This is Olga talking. The British one already went there earlier. I think they're referring to Boris Johnson, but it was actually David Cameron last week who went to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump. This one is their local American one. I realize there are too many Johnsons in this world. Anyway, he will go there. It's important because a lot is in limbo right now. They're trying to solve all of these issues. Trump has an enormous influence on Johnson. From this standpoint, they will discuss it today. It could either give it a boost to the process or totally bury these negotiations, because Trump has already spoken out against it, this bill to help Ukraine. Republicans are already starting to fall away. Without Trump's support, it will be extremely difficult to quickly push this project through. From this standpoint, this question can't be solved without additional boost from Trump. So yes, Speaker Johnson went to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump. Kind of an awkward interaction. There's some other videos online, but this is my favorite part of Speaker Johnson's speech.
Everybody from around the world to come here, including hardened criminals, Everybody from around.
Speaker Johnson's trying to talk about migrant workers, calling them hardened criminals, and then he points to Donald Trump when he says it. I love this top comment. So Mike Johnson's left thumb is the only part of Mike Johnson that can't lie. And this is just sad for America. I want to share this clip of 4-star General Christopher Cavoli. He's the top general in Europe, and this is part of his testimony to Congress.
And it's important to note that Russia shows no signs of stopping, nor does Russia intend to stop with Ukraine. Russia presents to us a chronic threat. U.S. EUCOM has responded to this threat by enhancing our deterrence posture across Europe. We've strengthened our eastern flank with rotational force deployments.
This is one of the top military commanders in Europe stating, Russia shows no signs of stopping, and nor does Russia intend to stop with Ukraine. When you look at all these stars, when you look at all these ribbons, when you look at all these medals, this used to mean something to American politicians before Donald Trump, before MAGA took control of the Republican Party. Our top intelligence experts, our top military commanders can scream one thing, and Donald Trump doesn't care. He's going to continue protecting Russia. We really messed up. Ukraine has no missiles for the Patriot, Bild journalist says. On Thursday, Bild journalist Julian Ropke said that Ukraine does not have missiles for the Patriot and Iris-T air defense systems. This is how Russia was able to strike the Dnipro hydroelectric power plant and the largest thermal plant south of Kyiv. So there is good news. Germany announced it will immediately transfer another entire Patriot system to Ukraine, along with additional Patriot missiles. This will be the third Patriot air defense system donated from Germany. Thank you so much to the people of Germany. But if this was available, could it have been sent last month? Just saying. Ukraine is currently in talks with partners to receive 2 additional Patriot systems and 1 SAM PT battery. I don't know what countries Ukraine is talking to, but yes, there needs to be urgency. There needs to be the alarm raised. And Europe needs to do more to send Ukraine air defense systems. We've got some interesting polls. These are the latest polls out of Germany. And this is a comparison to a poll conducted 2 months ago in February. And support for Ukraine is actually increasing in Germany. 42% of Germans, when polled, want more support for Ukraine. This is up 9% from where it was 2 months ago. This is good news. Here's a crazy poll. Half of French youth willing to fight in Ukraine to defend France. So young French citizens favor deploying French troops to Ukraine more than the older generation. In the survey, 31% of youth thought positively about deploying French troops on the side of Ukraine, while only 17% of those over the age of 50 supported that. I'm loving everything coming out of France the last couple months. But to contrast, 61% of Americans believe another world war is coming, but only 9% are willing to serve if called. Despite the anticipation of war, the willingness of Americans to actively participate is limited. Only 6% would volunteer for military service in the event of another world war, with an additional 9% willing to serve if they were called up. However, if the U.S. faced an imminent threat of invasion, the willingness to volunteer for military service only increases to 16%. So there's an imminent threat of the invasion of the United States, and 84% of Americans say they wouldn't do anything to stop it. They would not help the military or the government fend off an invasion. This is the success of Russian disinformation and propaganda. Through their proxies like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson, America's lost when one of our two major political parties preaches peace and love for dictatorships around the world. This is the result. Sorry, that was a little depressing for me. But let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Japan has announced they will be sending 22 mechanized demining vehicles for Ukraine. These vehicles have been previously used in Cambodia to great success. Thank you so much to the people of Japan. Norway will transfer a total of 22 F-16s to Ukraine, of which 12 are fully combat capable. The other 10 need some repairs or can be used as parts. Thank you so much to the people of Norway. The Netherlands has allocated an additional 1 billion euros in military aid and 400 million euros in reconstruction. The Netherlands is also spearheading the fighter jet coalition and has pledged 24 F-16s. Thank you so much to the people of Netherlands. Incredible. Final feel-good clip I have for you is after a Russian attack and a fire. Ukrainian firefighters rescued a litter of puppies.
Что, резать надо? Давай. Собаку куда-то есть. Там вода, помнишь? Там вода, там нора у них походу, понял? Тихо. А не, живой. Живой. Давай куда-нибудь, я не знаю, вот там где-то черно, видно. Давай. Что, забирай. Последний, Жень. Тихо. Да. Иди сюда. Ты живой.
Reunited with Mama. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.